Welcome to ChemTECH World Expo 2024. The event was held from March 4 to March 7, 2024 at the Bombay Exhibition Centre in Mumbai. This edition commemorated half a century of our flagship event, which has been uniting stakeholders from India's energy, chemical, pharma processing industries and allied sectors since 1974. Mr. Suresh Prabhu, former Union Minister of the Government of India, along with distinguished industry leaders, inaugurated the exhibition. More than 750 exhibitors showcased advancements in processing equipment and technologies for applications across downstream chemical and pharma processing industries. The event commenced with a panel discussion gathering stakeholders from the EPC industry to discuss the challenges in the transformation of India's EPC sector. Let's take a look.
Mr. Joydev, I'll start with you. EPC is essential for you to deliver those projects. So how do you see, from owner's perspective, how do you see the Indian EPC industry evolving? And do you see there's enough capacity and you're getting enough choices?
So to directly answer your question, Mr. Sharma, given the number of people who drop by at my office, the EPCC guys who drop by at my office saying that they're interested in doing projects, the interest is tremendous because the scope and the expanse of projects that are being executed right now in the country are also tremendous. The kind of money that we have put on the table in executing various expansion as well as greenfield projects in all our refineries. I can speak for Indian Oil as I come from that organization. In all our 9 refineries, we have a tremendous amount of expansion project going on. Just to give you an idea, at this point of time, Indian Oil is investing about 2 lakh crore worth of rupees in the various projects. So that gives you a sense of how much work is going on, and that also gives you a sense of how much scope there is for contractors, EPCC contractors specifically. There are various ways of executing our contracts. It could be through EPCC contractors where you give the responsibility to the contractor and just sit back and watch and monitor at an apex level. We have another mode of executing contracts, which is also called EPCM, or what we call conventional mode, where I, as a client, I'm in direct control of the project execution activities through various, maybe through a project management consultant, but there is a large number of contractors who report to this project management consultant, and that's another mode of doing it. So each of these has have their own places in the project management scheme of things. So if there is a greenfield project going on, I think the EPCC mode is the best mode to go ahead and get things done on time. Those usually are the big ticket projects. But if there is a brownfield project or a revamp or a modification project that is done in an existing unit, where you take a shutdown or a turnaround of the unit and then you bring in these changes, incorporate changes through projects. In such cases where the scope is not very well known, not very well defined, and you have to, you run up against various kinds of problems as you're executing these projects. So in such cases, I think the EPCM mode is better, where the client is directly in control. But having said that, it's you know, project management is like cricket. You have Test cricket and you have T20. So EPCM is Test cricket, EPCC is T20. That's where the runs come very, very fast.
I'll move on to Mr. Ajay Kumar from ONGC. As you know, ONGC is predominantly an offshore player. Of course, they have a lot of onshore assets as well. But I think the large amount of capital goes in offshore development, where, as you know, that huge number of assets, marine assets, are involved in terms of installation vessels and supply boats and barges, etc. And when you have an asset-heavy business, it's very important to have continuity of work, because otherwise, if there is no good utilization of the asset, then the cost goes up, eventually, which goes back into the production cost. So how do you sort of manage that, and how do you ensure good continuity so that we have a continuous engagement?
Unlike onshore, offshore is typical more challenging. Of course, there is no question of ROU and other political interference, but there is a big interference from the environment, where environment, climate, and sea conditions are not conducive. The resources goes on standby. And one of the major resources required is the offshore construction vessels. In India, only L&T is having derrick barge of their own. Other than that, India is not having the construction barge, and the construction barge is required to be obtained from outside. And once the market picks up, the construction activity picks up, if you see the price of crude oil, it is hovering near about 75 to 80, 85, 90, it is going like that. And most of the company, they want to harness as quick as possible. So everybody has come out their investment, and suddenly all the resources has gone to a big party who has seen in 2020-21 that this is what is going, the world is going to behave. So they acted fast, and when they acted fast, all resources are there. In Indian context, yes, we were late starter, but we want EPC contractor to come forward. And considering the limited availability of EPC contractor in India, we are facing the challenge, as well as the EPC contractor is also facing challenge for getting the resources. But continuity of work will be there for next 5 to 6 years. And we plan to invest more than $11 billion investment in next 2 to 3 years. The offshore oil gas is the speed. It is not having the period of 4 to 5 years. We create facility in 2 years, 24 months, not more than 24 months. So that is the challenge we have. And EPC challenge, considering that $11 billion in 2 years, 2 to 3 years, so each year $5 to $6 billion investment is there. And that challenge will be for everybody. An EPC contractor and subsequently the service provider, suppliers, they all have huge work from ONGC. Thank you.
Okay, I think I move on to Vinayak, my friend Vinayak. How do you see the international EPC environment and domestic EPC environment? How do you compare? What do you think needs to change for the EPC contractors to provide better services to our customers?
I think to your point, Sharma, what is the difference? Yeah, one, I think the pace at which the expectation of projects are there in India is unparalleled, especially now, today. Yeah, the pace at which projects are expected to be completed are much faster than, we are always there to challenge the global norms and say that we are going to do it faster. So that's the challenge which we have in front of us. But I think the essential couple of differences which I see, the extent and intensity of the front-end designs and planning. Right? Globally, there is a lot of time and effort and money spent in the front-end design and planning before we actually trigger projects and go into EPCs. Whereas in India, because of the time pressures, typically you don't go to that extent of refinement, which leads to changes during execution, which leads to not really a robust plan on day one as we actually jump into project. There is a recognition that on one hand is the T20 and one hand is the test, I think as Mr. Joydeep said. But there is also internationally a recognition to say if there is a certain project objective to be achieved, there is a 50-over game in between, right? There is a flexibility on the execution models like, open book convertible EPCs or, for example, there's a energy major in the US, which had a feed competition between two EPC contractors to arrive at. So they didn't lose time, but they knew that a robust feed had to be made. So they actually paid two contractors to do a very robust feed. So there is a horses for courses type of commercial models which people are willing to look at globally, which I think is something we need to also reflect on how we can do.
Move on to Sudhir. I think Nayara is one of the, again, large refiners. So what do you think, what are your views on that, how you are promoting this, what kind of encouragement you are providing to the EPC contractors, and as Nayara, what your plans are?
Okay, so first of all, let me say that EPC industry or the project execution industry is a very interesting industry always, certainly not boring, because we always keep on coming up with new and new challenges. Whether you talk of quality, you talk of safety, you talk of cost optimization, and even timelines, what we have been talking about. Our goalposts keep on changing, so obviously we have to be innovative and keep coming up with new and new solutions on that way. We can see around us a lot of these things happening. A lot of examples were given in terms of like digital twins we are talking about. For one of our units, which was built quite some time back, we wanted to revamp it. We didn't have a 3D model for that. We went in for a laser scanning through L&T, of course. And today, the laser scanning and 3D model development has reached that stage that you get the details of nuts and bolts with that. So, these kind of technological advancements which have come through innovation are very, very helpful to our EPC industry. And in conventional way, we cannot keep on moving on that. So we need to have innovative ways, keep on thinking of new ways, not just in terms of technology or maybe digital twin, yes, very nice, laser technology, all these things. But we need to be even innovative in terms of attracting the right talent to our industry. We all worked through COVID times. Nobody shut the shop. And I think a lot of innovation happened during that time, which is actually now continuing. We are even doing remote witnessing of the FATs or many other inspections at the manufacturing shops. We have learned to work without meeting in person. We do a lot of work without, a lot of travel is reduced. So bringing in a lot of efficiency that way. So, innovation is basically indispensable, and innovation is actually key to the survival of EPC industry, I would say. Thank you.
I think one of the comments I want to make, while we focus about new technology, I think how we can use technology to improve productivity, particularly in the skilled workers area domain, is something very important, because today we just don't have that many people available to build the plants we aspire to build. So thank you, Sudhir. Now I move on to Mark. But generally I hear that the Indian contracts are very onerous and very one-sided, favoring customers, and leaves little room for contractors. And most of the contract we do undertake based on good faith and trust, because the customers have been kind enough so far. I mean, I have to admit that. Though the contracts are very onerous, nobody has, strictly speaking, enforced those terms. But when you look at the contract, it's very scary. So how do you see it? I mean, having seen all this thing, what is your perspective? Do you get scared to look at this contract?
Very difficult question to answer, given the people I'm sitting with, however. Probably most people in India, I think, will know Petrofac for their E&C business, the big engineering and construction business, predominantly led out of Sharjah. That is generally a lump sum EPC turnkey business for refineries or petchem facilities. Very strong in the Middle East, North Africa, working in Thailand, working in Lithuania, obviously has a track record in India. Projects, I think the international community probably did a bit of a pivot during COVID, when many of us got significantly impacted with the inability to get workers to site, with the inability to put people on marine assets and install platforms, and install subsea pipelines and so forth. That left pretty much all of the international large community, and I'm sure the Indian EPC contractors, pretty much exposed. Then further to that, we had the situation with Russia-Ukraine, where the commodity prices went through the roof. So again, if you're executing a $2, $3, $4 billion project, or even a $500 million project, you were significantly harmed by the impact. And of course, the only way to find resolution through that is to work with your client. And that's a key issue. To your point, I think that's a very strong point. Contracts can scare the heck out of people.
particularly if you're working with a new client and you're not maybe quite familiar with the fact that they don't apply them. They're not punitive. They are reasonable. But it takes time to learn that. So that's one of the issues. Another big piece of the business that we are working in India right now is what we call asset solutions, which is predominantly offshore operations, maintenance, late life management, and decommissioning. So that generally is on a not so much of a lump sum basis. It's maybe time and material, reimbursable. So those contracts, we can expect a little bit more exposure and accept it. India is far too big a market for us to ignore. The opportunities here are enormous. The consistency of work is enormous. The intelligence within the community, within the client base is enormous. Would I like them to maybe do a little bit less L1? Wouldn't hurt. Would I like to see a little bit more collaboration? Wouldn't hurt, you know. But that all starts with talking, and I think sessions like this are very critical to hopefully helping us make these things happen. So, you know, I'm glad I can share some of my thoughts, and hopefully, you know, we can continue the dialogue in due course.
Thank you, Mark. I think interesting comments. I move on to now Yoshiro-san. You are operating in the global market. I mean, as I said, there are only few manufacturers, so you have a lot of options, lot of choices, whom you want to supply. But how do you see the Indian industry, Indian market, and what's your experience, and how do you want to contribute more and help us and help our customers in delivering these projects successfully?
In terms of the Indian market, I think that's still very strong. And then especially the refinery and the petrochemicals are very strong. And then thanks to that increase in the population and then the economy, there are lots of opportunity for the OEM. And then however, we are the international OEM, but also the competition is very intensive. So it's not easy for us to survive, even though that the Indian market is very strong. And then here, what I'd like to emphasize or highlight is even though such petrochemical or refinery, that so-called the conventional market is they are strong. I think that nobody can stop the direction of the decarbonization or the energy utilization. And then I'd like to raise that example is that the electrification of the equipment. For example, that the e-ethylene called traditionally that ethylene plant, the main cracker, and then the refrigeration machines are driven by the steam turbine. But now the 50 megawatt class, the motor drive, the string are emerging in other countries. And then it's 10 years back, I never imagined that kind of motor drive the ethylene plant. It's very surprising, and then also for OEM. And then my point is, even if we said, compared to the green hydrogen and green ammonia, the petrochemical, that refining may be considered as a conventional traditional, but even those, the conventional market, still a lot of changes happening, and then the OEM have to provide a better solution for the EPC, and then do that to meet the global demand. So that's what I feel in the Indian market is strong, and that's still changing. So the OEM need to supply the better solution equipment for the customer, the EPC, and the end user. That's what I'm thinking.
So I think we spoke about climate conditions and climate changes and reducing the carbon footprint. This is off the book, actually. It was not, I'm not shared this question, but you know, one of the roadmaps for reducing the carbon footprint is to improve the efficiency. I mean, everything, if you can improve the efficiency of the machines, if you can improve the efficiency of IC engines and reduce the consumption, that will be one way to reduce the carbon footprint. So are there any plans? I mean, are you working on that? You have a lot of R&D spent to see how you can do more with less?
Yes, but we can provide that kind of a solution, but the many cases that how end user or that EPC think about it at the future plan, then we can study that this is a good option, how can we do that? Such kind of the bi-directional communication is very important. Yeah, so only the OEM can provide the better solution. So work together is a very important part to develop the new technology and to meet the global demand for new energy transition.
Thank you very much to all the panel members. I think we had some very free-flowing and good conversations. I think we addressed some of the core issues which is being faced by the industry from both owners' perspective and contractors' perspective. Thank you all.
ChemTECH is one of the very extraordinary and unique platform in which industries from different parts of the world, and particularly from India, they all come together and display, demonstrate, learn from each other about what are the new developments in the chemical industry. When I say chemical process industry, which also includes EPC and all other parts. And therefore it's a unique in a sense that I don't think there is any other similar event that happens, not only in India, but probably in this part of the world. For EPC is the heart of any industry now. They come together, they bring engineering, provide products, and complete solutions, one solution. And they take responsibility for delivering it. So finally, not getting best material is important, not getting best process is important, not necessarily that get technology is impossible. Finally, it must produce the result, and that's the product. So that's why EPC is very important.
EPC industry by itself means the sector gives services in engineering, procurement, and construction. In the panel discussions, you may have seen the kind of challenges the EPC sector faces. And I would say some of these challenges are very relevant, particularly going forward with Indian government's drive.
This year is a very special year because it's the 50th year celebration. Very nice platform has been built for the industry fraternity, which is able to attract a lot of leaders from the industry, from the EPC industry, from the manufacturing industry, from the public sector organization, private sector organizations. And it's this gathering allows us to exchange views and thoughts and share insights about how the industry is evolving. And there is also a lot of technological advancement happening, artificial intelligence, digital technology, which is quite disruptive. This is the time for everyone to embrace change for their own good and for the organization good, so that we can become, contribute to the nation's growth, contribute to their individual growth, contribute to the company's growth, and we can all make India proud.
Our objective of doing a specialized EPC-related technical seminar and conference at ChemTECH is essentially how can we enable Indian EPC contractors to scale and transform the Indian industrial growth. If India is ever to be an industrialized nation, we are going to build mega plants, mega factories, mega infrastructure. For each of these, EPC is the critical linchpin that holds it together. It is our hope and desire that over the next 25 years, we will have maybe 5, maybe 7 truly global and world-class and world-scale EPCs who can handle projects in excess of a few $1 billion. Today, L&T is the shining example of an extraordinary EPC. We hope that next 25 years we'll see 5 more L&Ts.